Have you ever stayed somewhere so late that the place no longer felt like it belonged to the living? Because 1 year ago, during my final exams, that is exactly what happened to me. And even now, I still cannot walk past my old school at night. I still cannot hear the sound of dragging footsteps in a quiet hallway without freezing. And I still remember the question that woman asked me. A question so simple and yet so terrifying that I blacked out in the middle of the road trying to escape her. This happened to me last year, a week before our final exams at Eden Hill School. Usually, our school library closed at 5 in the evening, but because exam season had started, the school administration decided to keep it open until midnight so students could stay longer and prepare. Most students were happy about it. Some said it was helpful. Others said the school felt creepy after dark and refused to stay. At the time, I laughed at them. I wish I had not. My house was only 15 minutes away from the school, and my home was never a good place to study anyway. My younger cousins were always shouting, the television was always on, and somehow there was always noise coming from somewhere. So for me, the library felt perfect. Quiet, calm, safe. At least, that is what I believed. That evening, I left my house around 6 o'clock with my backpack, notebooks, and a cup of cheap coffee I had bought from a small stall near the school gate. The sky was already turning dark blue, and the winter air had that sharp coldness that makes every breath feel thin and dry. When I reached the library, there were still a few students inside. Some were whispering over their notes. Some were solving math problems. Some looked half dead from stress and lack of sleep. I remember choosing a table near the back wall under a yellow lamp. That corner always felt the quietest. For the next few hours, I was completely lost in my books. I revised chemistry formulas, memorized history dates, and solved past papers until my fingers started hurting from holding the pen. Time moved strangely in that silence. Every now and then I would hear a chair scrape, pages turn, or someone sigh from exhaustion. Then, little by little, the sounds disappeared. One by one, students packed their bags and left. I noticed some of them leaving around 8:30. After that, I stopped paying attention. I only wanted to finish one last chapter before going home. At some point, I looked up and checked the wall clock, 10:07 p.m. For a second, I just stared at it. I had never stayed that late before. Even at 8, there were usually at least a few students around, but now the library had gone completely silent. Not normal silence. Not peaceful silence. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. I looked around. All the tables were empty. The chairs were pushed in. The librarian's front desk lamp was off. That was strange. I had not even noticed the librarian leaving. The entire library felt abandoned. I told myself not to be dramatic. I only had 10 or 15 minutes of revision left, so I lowered my head and continued reading. That was when I heard it. A dragging sound. Soft. Slow. Like someone with an injured leg was walking through the library. Drag. Step. Drag. Step. At first I thought maybe another student had come back in. I did not look up immediately. I just waited to hear where the footsteps would go, but the sound did not pass me. It came closer. Drag. Step. Drag. Step. Closer and closer, until it sounded like whoever was walking had entered the same aisle between the bookcases behind me. A cold feeling moved down my back. I slowly lifted my head. The library was still empty. I turned slightly in my chair and looked toward the rows of shelves behind me. Nothing. No one. But the footsteps had stopped. That was worse. For a few seconds, I sat completely still, listening. Then I heard a faint tapping sound from somewhere deep inside the library. Tap, 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 like fingernails touching wood. I stood up so quickly my chair almost fell. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I tried to laugh at myself. Maybe I was tired. Maybe someone was playing a prank. Maybe one of the old windows was loose and the wind was moving something. Then I saw it. At the end of the farthest shelf row, just for a second, I saw something move. Not clearly, just a shape, a figure passing behind the bookshelves. Human-sized, slow, limping. Every muscle in my body tightened. I grabbed my books with shaking hands, shoved them into my backpack, and hurried toward the library exit. Our school library opens into a very long corridor. It is narrow, with old white walls and dim lights fixed high above. During the day, it looks ordinary. At night, it looks like a tunnel built for nightmares. At the far end of that corridor, you turn right and reach the main school exit. I stepped out of the library and into that corridor, and the first thing I noticed was how cold it had become. Not normal night cold. This felt different, still, heavy, like the air itself had stopped moving. I walked fast, gripping my backpack strap, trying not to look behind me. My footsteps echoed too loudly. Halfway down the corridor, I looked up and saw a woman standing at the far end. She was just there, perfectly still. Her body was angled strangely, like her spine was bent the wrong way. Her clothes looked long and dirty, almost gray, and her hair hung over her face in dark, tangled strands. I stopped walking. My mouth went dry. I had no idea who she was or how she had gotten there. For a second, I thought maybe she was some parent waiting for someone. But the longer I looked at her, the more wrong she seemed. Her head tilted a little, too far, too slowly. I felt sick. "Who's there?" I shouted. The moment I said it, the woman was gone. Not walked away, not stepped aside. Gone, as if she had never been there. I stood frozen in the corridor, staring at the empty space where she had been. A second later, the lights above me flickered. That broke me. I ran. I ran to the exit, pushed open the school door, and stumbled out onto the street. The cold air outside hit my face so hard it almost hurt. I bent forward, breathing fast, trying to calm myself. I told myself I was panicking. I told myself exhaustion was making me hallucinate. Then I looked around the street, and my fear came back even worse. It was empty, completely empty. That street was never empty. There were always motorbikes, small shops still open, people walking, someone talking in the distance, dogs barking, traffic humming from the main road. But that night, there was nothing. No voices, no engines, no shop lights. Even the air felt silent. I started walking home as fast as I could. I kept my eyes lowered most of the time because I was too afraid to look too far ahead. My heart was pounding so hard it made my chest hurt. I remember hearing only two things: my own footsteps and another sound somewhere behind me. Drag, step, drag, step. I stopped walking. The sound stopped too. I turned around. No one. The road behind me was empty. I started walking again, Faster now, almost jogging. Drag, step, drag, step. Behind me again, this time closer. I did not turn around. I could not. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me not to look. I kept moving until I saw a long, thin shadow stretch across the ground in front of me. It slid toward my feet slowly, even though there was no one beside me. My entire body went numb. I raised my head. A woman was walking ahead of me. I had not seen her pass me. I had not heard her come from the front. And yet, somehow, she was there now, just a few yards ahead, limping, dragging one leg. Her clothes were torn and filthy. Her bare feet looked twisted, as if the bones had healed the wrong way after being broken. Her hands hung stiff at her sides, fingers bent unnaturally. Her hair covered most of her face, but I could see enough to know that something was terribly wrong with it. The skin on her neck looked dark and bruised. Her head jerked slightly with every step. She was walking very slowly, so slowly that I almost caught up to her without meaning to. I stopped immediately. My whole body was shaking. Every part of me was telling me not to go near her, not to speak, not to breathe too loudly. Just then, the woman stopped walking. For one horrible moment, the entire world went silent. Then, without turning around, she spoke. "Have you seen my daughter?" Her voice sounded wet, broken, like it was coming from a throat filled with mud. I could not answer. She asked again, this time a little louder. "Have you seen my daughter?" My lips parted, but no sound came out. Then she turned. I will never forget her face. One side of it looked almost normal, pale and hollow and exhausted with grief. But the other side looked ruined. The eye was clouded white. The cheek was split. Her mouth stretched too wide, like the skin had torn and healed badly. She stared at me with a look so desperate and hateful at the same time that my knees nearly gave out. "I've been looking for her," she whispered. "They told me she was here." I could not think. I could not breathe. I could not even understand what was happening. The only thing I knew was that if I said the wrong thing, something terrible would happen. So I did the stupidest thing I have ever done in my life. With trembling hands, I pointed far down the road behind her and said, "Over there." I do not know why I said it. Maybe I thought I could distract her. Maybe I just wanted her to go away. For a few seconds, she did not move. Then her head twitched. Slowly, she looked toward where I had pointed, and then she began limping away. Drag, step, drag, step. She kept walking farther and farther down the road until she disappeared into darkness. The moment I could no longer see her, I turned and ran. I ran harder than I have ever run in my life. I did not care where I was going. I only wanted to reach light, noise, people, anything living. My bag was slamming against my back. My breath burned in my throat. My vision was blurring. And then I heard her scream. From far away, but impossibly clear. "She is here!" I stopped dead. The scream echoed through the street. Then came the dragging footsteps again. Not far, very close, right behind me. I turned.
She was at the other end of the road, but she was no longer walking slowly. Now she was coming toward me with broken, jerking movements, her limbs twisting, her head snapping from side to side, her feet scraping against the ground as if every bone in her body had been shattered and put back together wrong. I tried to run again, but my legs felt weak. The houses around me seemed dark and dead. No doors opened. No lights came on. No one heard me, or maybe no one wanted to. The woman kept coming closer. "Where is she?" she screamed. Her voice no longer sounded human. "Where is my daughter?" I fell to the ground trying to back away. My hands scraped against the road. I could smell something rotten. Then suddenly, she was standing over me. I do not remember her crossing the distance. 1 second she was yards away. The next second she was above me. Her hair fell around my face like dirty rope. I could feel icy drops of water or something worse falling onto my skin. She bent down until her ruined face was inches from mine. And then she smiled. Not a normal smile. A smile stretched by grief. A smile stretched by madness. A smile that did not belong on anything human. "She's with you," she whispered. That was the last thing I heard before everything went black. When I woke up, I was in my own bed. My head felt heavy. My body ached. Sunlight was coming through the window, and for a few confused seconds, I thought maybe I had dreamed the whole thing. Then I saw my torn sleeves, my scraped palms, the dried dirt on my shoes, and I knew it had been real. My mother was sitting beside me, worried and angry at the same time. She told me our neighbor, Mr. Kareem, had found me unconscious on the side of the road a few streets away from home at around midnight. He carried me back and thought maybe I had fainted from stress. I wanted to tell them what I had seen, but when I tried, the words got stuck in my throat. Later that afternoon, I went to see Mr. Kareem myself. He was an old man who had lived in that area for decades. Quiet, serious, the kind of person who notices more than he says. When I told him where he had found me, his face changed. He asked me only one question. "Did you see a woman?" The moment he said that, the blood drained from my face. I asked him how he knew. He was silent for a long time before finally inviting me inside. He shut the door, sat down heavily, and told me a story no one at school had ever told us. In 1998, there was a woman named Agatha. She was 32 years old and lived near Eden Hill School with her only daughter, Eliza, who was 10.
Agatha's husband had died years earlier, so the girl was all she had left. People said Agatha loved her daughter too much. The kind of love that turns into fear. The kind of fear that turns into obsession. She walked her daughter to school every morning, picked her up every afternoon, waited outside if the girl stayed late, checked on her constantly. Then one rainy evening, Eliza stayed behind after school to play with friends near the old science block. No one knows exactly what happened. Some said she slipped from the broken staircase behind the building. Some said she ran after a ball and fell into the drainage trench near the outer wall. Some said she was alone for too long, injured, calling for help that never came. By the time anyone found her, she was dead.
Mr. Kareem told me Agatha never recovered from it. She came to the school every day, asking where her daughter was. At first, the teachers pitied her. Then, they feared her. She searched classrooms, bathrooms, corridors, the playground, even the library. She kept saying the same thing. She is still here. She is waiting for me. Months later, Agatha herself died. Some said she hanged herself in her house. Some said she threw herself in front of a truck near the school road. Others claim she simply disappeared and was found days later near the old gate, her body twisted in a way no one could explain. After that, strange stories began. Students staying late heard limping footsteps in empty halls. Security guards saw a woman in torn clothes near the corridor outside the library. People walking home at night reported hearing a voice ask them if they had seen a little girl. And those who answered, or pointed, often fainted before reaching home. I asked Mr. Kareem why I had never heard any of this before. He gave me a bitter smile. Because schools don't like ghost stories attached to their name, he said. And because people think if they stop speaking of the dead will stop listening. That night, I locked every window in my room. I barely slept. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a faint scraping sound outside my bedroom door. Drag, step, drag, step. My blood turned to ice. I sat frozen in bed, staring at the dark line under the door. Then I saw a shadow stop outside. A woman's shadow. Still, listening. I could not breathe. Slowly, very slowly, 2 bent fingers appeared beneath the door, feeling across the floor as if searching for something. Or someone. Then came the whisper. So close. I buried my face under the blanket like a child, shaking so violently my teeth hurt. I stayed like that until morning. When the sun rose, the shadow was gone, but on the wooden floor outside my room, there were wet marks, the shape of twisted feet. I never went back to the library after sunset again. I sat for my exams during the day and left school before evening every single time. But the worst part is this. I do not think Agatha was searching randomly. I think when I lied to her, when I pointed into the dark and told her her daughter was somewhere else, I made her angry. Because ever since that night, sometimes when I am alone, I hear dragging footsteps behind me. Sometimes in long corridors, sometimes on empty roads, sometimes right outside my room. And once, just a month ago, I woke up to find a child's voice whispering near my ear. Mother is still looking for me. So if you ever stay late in a school building, if you ever hear limping footsteps in an empty hallway, if you ever see a woman standing where no one should be, do not ask who she is. Do not follow her. And if she looks at you and asks, "Have you seen my daughter?" Whatever you do, do not point. Because if she believes you know where her child is, she may follow you home. And if she follows you home, she may never leave.